Fog juice is used for making a special effect where you create clouds, mist, or fog. Today we're going to try boiling a whole gallon of it and see what kind of result we get. What happens when you boil an entire gallon of fog juice? I don't know, but I want to find out, so that's what we're doing today. The idea is simple. We'll try boiling or burning a small portion of the fog juice and see what kind of effect we get. If it's anything that we like, we're going to take a whole gallon of it, pour it into a steel pot, put the pot in a big old foundry, and crank up the heat. Some of the ingredients in fog juice don't boil at as low of a temperature as water. Water, of course, boils at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Some of the ingredients in the fog juice don't boil until 500 or 600 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're going to use a little bit more heat than usual to try and really get this to vaporize. What exactly goes into these fog fluid recipes is a little bit of a trade secret, but there's often water, there's some glycerin, and there's a whole bunch of different compounds based on ethylene glycol. We're going to start off with a relatively small amount. Pour that in, and then watch what happens. So far, it seems like it's just steaming. Normal steam from water. But I think there is still a lot of water in it, and the water in it is going to keep the temperature down until it's all evaporated. And at that point, I'm hoping the other chemicals will sort of do their thing where they vaporize, and we'll see if we start getting thicker smoke. I think we already are getting thicker smoke. In fact, up in the air, it's starting to be quite visible. Now, the way that fog fluid works is that it vaporizes, and normally this is done inside a machine. It pulls some of the fluid out and in a very small quantity applies it to a heating element. That vaporizes it, it sprays it out the front, and when it hits the cooler air, it condenses into the thick fog that we're used to seeing. This is happening in a little bit of a different method right now because we are just using a pot on a stove, and so it stays really hot, and it's probably not condensing until 6 to 10 feet above our pot. Oh, now it's bubbling interestingly. Part of our pot is literally red hot. We're definitely getting a thicker fog now. Oh, and it caught on fire. Fascinating. It's off the heat. Pot is obviously still very warm, and we've still got fog rising up. We've definitely started filling the dome, and it's got, if you've been around fog machines, there's a smell that they have, and it's got that smell filling the dome at this point. So I would say our small scale test, we are getting some fog coming out of that fog juice as we boil it and burn it. I don't know if it's necessarily as efficient as it is when you put it into a fog machine. Those things do a pretty good job of using their fog juice for quite a while, but this is definitely faster. So I think what we need to do is upgrade a little bit, and we're just gonna try doing the whole gallon and see how much it'll fill the dome. And then also, in the top of our dome, there is a small little oculus ring. That allows for airflow and some light to get in, although most of the light comes in through the door. But we wanna see if we get fog kind of pouring up out of that circle in the top. Not only that, but we are also going to be using our giant metal foundry, which so far has had, sadly, very little use. I think we poured some liquid nitrogen down into it once, but now we get to actually fire it up with something inside it, and hopefully it's just gonna get that whole pot blazing hot as fast as possible. But the hope is that we get a lot of smoke out of this, a gallon's worth of fog fluid out of this. Let's give it a try. Feels like it has plenty. I'll throw this on and see if it helps or hurts. Ooh, suddenly some fog is coming up out of that. Ah. It is all boiling rather marvelously. But you can see how much of this is just water that needs to boil off, and it's getting lower. But water creates a little bit of vapor, whereas the other chemicals create a lot more vapor. very shallow now. There's only like an inch of liquid at the bottom of that. And it's definitely getting smokier. Like, you're now hazy. Oh, I think we're hitting a critical point. This is looking more. Man, that is crazy how little is left. Maybe 3/4 or a half an inch at the bottom of that pot now. We may finally have started to boil off all the water. Oh, I think we might have started to actually ignite it inside there too. Our fog juice, or what's left of it, has actually caught on fire inside the pot. Bigger flames than I thought were gonna happen. It is well and truly on fire. It is pretty smoky in here. So now I'm gonna take a knife and perforate it and then try and run and jump through it. Boiling fog juice does not work as well as just putting fog juice in a fog machine. That's what they're designed for. It's all been carefully formulated and measured to work with that system to disperse it into the air. You do get some nice thick fog when you heat it up, but I think it just gets too thick. Usually when it's applied into a fog machine, it's in just the right amount that it can vaporize before it's thrown out of the machine, and it then condenses. You don't have nearly that much control when you just light it on fire. It's a cool thing to see and do, but I bet we would get a lot more fog out of a gallon if we just put it into a machine.
We've got a little bit more time right now. We're gonna do some more Q&A. You have asked some questions. We're gonna try and answer some of them for you. All right, we now have a question from Vedant Sahuja. I am so sorry, I'm pronouncing that wrong in 9 different ways. Sahuja. I'm very sorry that I do not know how to say that. He asks, what is your filming gear? That depends. If you ask me, our filming gear is a camera, a microphone, and some lights. But I don't think that's quite the answer you're looking for. So we're gonna turn this over to our cameraman, who's gonna give you actual answers about what we use. Mark?
Cool, so the main camera that we use is the Sony a6500. We love this camera. It's cheap. If we happen to destroy it, it's not that expensive to replace it and buy a new one. It's lightweight, and we can put it in a lot of places that we probably couldn't put a larger camera in. We have gone through a couple different kind of microphones. We mainly use these lav mics. It's a Sony lav mic and hooked to a Sony field recorder. We love the sound of the audio. It's really easy to sync up in post. So on the camera, we have a Rode Video Micro, and it's mainly for getting ambient sounds, like the sounds of explosions or something boiling. On top of the camera, we have a small HD monitor that I use to be able to see what I'm recording instead of on that tiny little LCD that's built into the camera. It's just nice having something a little bit brighter and larger for making sure I have everything in focus.
And to specify, small HD is actually the brand of the monitor. That's not just a description that it's small and high definition.
Yep. The lens on my camera is a Zeiss 24mm 1.8 aperture prime lens, and it is the main lens that we use. I do have quite a few other lenses. I love this Zeiss 1.8 aperture lens. It helps with low light video shots that we need. The lights that we use in our studio are pretty cheap, that you can just find them on Amazon. We can link them down in the description below. Yeah, we do use other cameras. We really like using the Sony RX100 Mark V. It's a great camera. It's small, again, portable. We have actually had this really close to like molten aluminum exploding onto it. On the lens, you can see we actually have a couple of pock marks from where molten aluminum and molten brass have splashed onto it and melted the glass. But it still works great, and we love it. We love using GoPros as well. They are excellent for putting up even closer to the action. For example, this GoPro right here is totally melted on the top. We had molten brass melt the top of this GoPro, but it still works, which is very impressive. So for editing, we as a team use Premiere Pro. It's excellent for being able to start off editing on one machine. I'll upload the footage to Dropbox, and we have editors that are not local download the footage and the project file and just be able to start working right from where I left off. Hey, thank you, Vedant, for your question.
Guys, that's all for today, but the fun doesn't end here. That box at the top will take you directly to our most recent video, and you should go check that out. The other box will show you what YouTube thinks you should be watching next. And if you haven't joined the club yet, just hit this bomb and you'll be subscribed to the channel so you never miss out on the fun. Don't forget to ring that bell, and we will see you in the next one. Talk to you then.